Welcome to Millthorpe, our little studio here. Saturday streaming, the last one for the year. And my name's Jason, this is Chloe. And if you're wondering where Millthorpe is, Spring Grove as we still sometimes call it, we're 250k west of Sydney, up in the soft country here. Beautiful it is. Wiradjuri country, very pleased to say that we're coming to you from Wiradjuri land and feel very lucky to call this part of the world home. This is part 3 of our kind of weird little celebration of our own songs. I think I worked out today that between last year and this year we've got about 50 hours of Saturday streaming stuff up there now. It took a long time before we convinced ourselves to sing our own songs, but here we are, and this is part 3. So if we tell some stories tonight or sing some songs and you feel like there's a gap in the story and you haven't seen the other 2, you could wander back through the YouTube clips, part 1 and 2.
We're trying to do some of the really old ones and some of the newer ones in all the different shows, so we'll cover a bit of the same ground again. But in this third show, we're covering the move. We've moved out west and moved back down to Jamberoo and then moved out west again. So we're getting onto the Millthorpe era in our storytelling, which is an interesting time for us, actually, because it's when we started recording ourselves. We actually started, putting holes through doors for cables to go through and that sort of stuff.
Building the studio, yeah. Started having kids to go with the albums.
Right.
And all that sort of thing. But we are going to start back in our very early days, I think. We've tried to make it clear that the kind of songwriters and music makers we are, we simply don't know what's going to come out. We're not the sort of people to sit down and write a song about or X or we want this style or whatever. Well, we just sit down
occasionally we manage that, but mostly it's just, whatever takes our fancy. Isn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't put any of them in a genre. Not since school anyway. They're just, Anyway, we're going to start with a song called Pretty Please. It's off our first album, Wailing Bazaar. One of the first songs we wrote together. When we first met 30 years ago and started writing songs, we found this knack for hitting on songs that really didn't seem to have any precedent. They just come out with if you think about it, you can see some influences, but it was strange to find a home for them in a live context. We were doing lots of gigs with the bands, and I had been doing some solo gigs, and I said to Chloe today, it's almost like we were the independents of the independent scene.
Yeah. We write what Alan Musgrove would describe as big sellers. In other words, you need a big cellar to store all the CDs you don't sell.
It's true. So here's a song that we certainly did. Hi. Oh, Michael Griffin, hello. Peter,
hi,
hey, it's good to see you again. Are you at home? Yeah, okay. I'm Carol. Hello, Carol. Welcome again. Pretty Please is the name of the song. This is a song we had to go in a couple of different ways. We played it on an acoustic guitar. This whole album is just guitar and voices. And we might tell you a bit of story about how that happened after playing monstrous psychedelic rock and roll for a long time. I think we were just ready for the change.
Yep.
Playing these songs of a disparate nature just with an acoustic guitar seemed to kind of put them all in a place where otherwise they wouldn't hang out together, But it's a song we also had a bit of a go at in the old rock and roll days too. So there's recordings of this. There's an old cassette release of ours that Pretty Please is on there, and that is a version with the great Paul Sinclair on drums.
Yes, we've been exploring the box of cassettes. Dave Nuke has a fantastic song called The Box of Cassettes. Look that one up.
Yeah. When it comes to rock and roll, the greatest truism in rock and roll is the band's only as good as its drummer, and Paul was one of the best. So
yes, he was.
We were lucky. We were lucky to have Paul when we did. But here's a version sans drums, but with a little bit of a hint to the kind of gig we were playing this song at. So, yeah, we were trying to find a home for our music, which meant we'd turn up and play as a duo anywhere. And everywhere. 6 hours in a pub until 2 o'clock in the morning with people dancing. Oh, yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Carry the microphone stands out last.
Exactly. Hello, John Greninger.
Yeah.
Nice to, in quotes, see you too. We would have played this song at the Sutherland Folk Club back in 1997 with you, John, or for you. Pretty Please.
I give you please if you want it. I give you pretty, pretty please. I'll kiss you in the morning, slide past you like a breeze. Oh, I'll give you all my loving, babe. I beg you, don't you tease. My life's dependent on it. Pretty, pretty please. Please remember, you hold my heart in your hand. Please remember, gotta try to understand. You never think what you're saying, you never stop, you never grieve, or you don't think who you're betraying, who it is you can't deceive. Well, I'll fight for you forever, baby, every breath I breathe. My life's dependent on it. Pretty, pretty Please remember, you got my heart in your hand. Please remember, you gotta try to understand, try to understand. Oh, I'll give you please if you want it. I give you pretty, pretty please. I'll kiss you in the morning, slide past you like a breeze. Oh, I'll give you all my loving, babe. I beg you, don't you tease. My life's dependent on it. Think again before you leave. Before you leave.
First album. I guess if you've caught the other couple of shows, you might remember us talking about this. We spent, well, for me, 10, 11 years, 12 years gigging before we really discovered that what we were playing was anything near what you might call folk music. It surprised us, and it was all down to Woodford Folk Festival and the Bathurst Folk Club.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Mike Martin who said, oh, well, you know, you've been to Woodford, you sort of got an idea. What you do is you just send a letter off with your recording and you see if the festival will have you. And there's one down in Canberra called the National Folk Festival. And he said, it's quite a big one, and it was. And he said, send your CD down and you never know. Well, they said yes, and it really surprised us because, like I say, we didn't really have any idea that what we were playing was anywhere near folk music. But we learnt.
It was acoustic instruments.
And we grew.
That we sent them. Which demo was that? That would have gone to the National.
This one, the CD.
The CD. Oh,
Yeah.
we had the CD.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So we did, and the 1997, and we're really pleased to say that in 2022, we're going to be playing live at the National Folk Festival again.
Yep.
That'll be 25 in a row for us of bookings, and gosh, we've missed it. And we played Good Folk this year, which was a cracker and an event. But,
Yeah.
and I know that the Nationals this year is going to be, well, it's exciting times, isn't it?
Just going to Good Folk and seeing all the Nationals banners actually up in the room where we were playing in the pub was enough to Really, it was quite moving actually, because we've missed those festivals so
That's for
much.
sure.
So fingers crossed.
The first song on this album was nowhere near a folk song. That year in 1997, another festival said yes, which was the great Australian Folk Festival at Kiama. Now, I should say we do have some songs on here that have a what you might call more close to a folk lyric content or folk music, but we were surprised because we were still finding our way, let's put it like that. By that stage, we'd been playing with Mike for a year and we'd been to Woodford a couple of times, so we knew, and even before we left Sydney and moved to Bathurst, we were reaching out for those great bush tunes and the stories and some recordings. John Meredith's Folk Songs of Australia, Volume 2, best book in the world. I absorbed all that. So we knew what we were stepping into and we wanted it really badly. But we were still surprised. And
we were still singing these ones.
Yeah, and one of the great surprises of that Kiama Folk Festival in 1997 was meeting some people who'd also come a bit of a long way around into folk. I think it does actually make quite a big difference whether you're we kind of call them first generation folkies, whether you're born to it or if you're second and third and fourth. We certainly come to the folk scene late, though, as I say, I grew up surrounded by the kind of music that we wanted to play. Anyway, the point about the Kiama Festival was arriving there and finding a young band. Well, we met David Benu. Chloe's already brought up David's name tonight. Great meeting of minds there. But the thing I'm remembering is there was a young band there. And when I say young, younger than we were then. Still are, funnily enough.
Probably not much younger.
No, a bit enough to make a difference, I think. And they were covering this song. I still don't know where they picked it up or where the CD went. The CD didn't get much airplay. Got a little bit of play on Triple J and some community radio in Sydney, so maybe that was it. But they were covering this one, so we started to feel more and more at home, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
The Guinness helped.
Yeah, always.
Between
anyone who's seen the last couple of shows will have heard us talk about how much the blues influenced me growing up, learning to play by ear. I always think of learning to play as kind of like learning on the Lachlan Delta, you know, in central New South Wales, because blues was kind of the lingua franca. Not only did it move me to tears when I first came across Muddy Waters, The Last Waltz, but that emotion and that feeling was also something that you can jam on, and jamming has always been a huge part of, well, what I did and we did later on. That song, Glory, Find a Way, that little first funky thing, was off the first album, first song, I think, on the first album. Glory is off this one. Us Not Them, Feet in the Dirt, Head in the Clouds. It was a great adventure recording that album, actually. Paul Nunn.
Yeah. And that Feet in the Dirt, Head in the Clouds is starting to reflect a bit of the countryside that we're out in. You can see, well, you can't see that photo, but on that photo, there's this funny little old brick falling down building that's just next to the Cowra railway station there. Must have been some kind of storage shed or something like that in days gone by. And Linda Pierce took that fantastic photo for us of all the railway lines and the old building. And you can hear that on that album we've started playing with sounds and atmosphere and space, just trying to get the sound of a bigger space.
Paul Nunn had some beautiful microphones. We took them into a wattle and daub cottage, so the atmosphere was all there, and we would just throw the sounds around the space and catch the sounds, and then track some bass and electric and stuff too back out at Paul's little sort of roundy, overly studio. It was a beautiful place out on the banks of Chifley Dam, and great memories. This song's also off that record, and again, I don't know what kind of songs we thought we were writing. I know that I know we had something to say, and we wanted to say something, and but it was all I think we were just seeing what came out to say what we wanted to say, and this is a song we call Everything. So another I don't know song, and then we'll get into a couple of folky things.
All right.
It's good to see you all, if you are there, and if you're watching on YouTube later on. I hope you enjoy the songs. It's been a real adventure. I thought we were just celebrating 30 years of songwriting with a sense of kind of whimsical nostalgia, and it turns out it's got a bit bigger on us than that. I think we've really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. It's surprised me. A couple of things have surprised me, but one of the things that surprised me is we had whole ways of playing that I'd kind of forgotten about.
No, we had to really dust them off and learn them again.
Especially with certain kind of rhythms and grooves and things that we were using. Everything. Everything won't get cold in time. Some things you have but you just can't find. Some things you know that you leave behind. Some things hurt so much they leave you blind. Sometimes it's hard to swallow your pride. Sometimes it feels so hollow inside. Cross that river, but it seems so wide. Some things burn so bright they leave you blind. It isn't me and it isn't you. The world still turns around, it's true. In the end, you begin again. It's all so easy to say, my friend. The sun is red, the sky is blue, night is black and the word is true. Cover my world in each day and you don't give me anything I can respond to. Chloe mentioned, we're going to pick up the story when we moved back out to Millthorpe. Now, by that stage, we'd immersed ourselves in the tradition, the deep Australian traditions in all their variety, so thoroughly that we really weren't writing a lot of songs. We were writing music, and I must say right now, I see no and feel no creative difference between working with traditional material and our own work. Nothing annoys me more than the word original song branded on something that sounds like 1,000 other bits of rubbish you've heard through these. Nothing drives me crazier than that. Original will. On the other hand, listen to Alan Musgrove sing a traditional song, and you'll find something particularly original in there. So things aren't as simple as all that. But we did still write music, and in about 2005-06, we'd been back in Millthorpe a couple of years, and I love our little museum here in town. Even when I was a kid, hanging out on the farm. Do you know, John Dengate used to say that history is not kings and queens and prime ministers, it's ours. And that museum was what kind of reinforced that, or had taught me that already, in fact, because it's such a vibrant museum, but a small museum. So on the walls of that museum are my uncles and cousins and aunties and friends.
And that museum has grown so much over the in the time since we've been in Millthorpe. It's just amazing. The work that's been put in, and the new sheds, and the working, organising the grants, making it happen. And one of the things that happened was a grant was organised to rescue an old Shuttleworth engine, Clayton Shuttleworth, I think it was called.
Yeah, Clayton Shuttleworth, that's
Clayton
right.
Shuttleworth. Yeah. One of these enormous steam traction engines, okay, with the big metal wheels that were basically the tractors, but they were just movable generators too. So you could strap them to anything and it would run it for you.
Carol, do call in. Do, if you've driven past it. I got to tell you, it's one of my favourite places in the world, that museum. So next time,
it's a beauty.
Don't
really,
drive past.
really good museum. And anyway, we were approached. They said, we've got this amazing engine in battlefield condition. The grant didn't allow them to actually fix anything, which was driving all the local kind of farming types a little bit mad. I think they all wanted to fix it and make it run, and they weren't allowed to with the money they'd got. Anyway, so it's parked up there just as it was. They might have dusted spiders.
Sorry if I'm repeating something you said, but this thing is like the T-Rex of it's
a monster.
Several tons of steam traction engine.
Anyhow, they gave us this wonderful interview with Hilton Henry, who had been sort of the last owner of the engine, and he told us the story about the engine being brought out from England and how proud they were of it, and how it was the bee's knees, and what it could do, the kind of work that it did, because it was basically kept them busy all year round with the various jobs they could offer to the community. They would bring the engine around to do the gold stamping and to do the threshing and to do all the different jobs. And I think when it went past, you knew about it. I think it left pretty obvious kind of carnage in its wake.
Given that these shows are really about songwriting, I guess importantly it gave us another way to write a song, where we could take the language straight off those tapes and use Hilton Henry's words with some of yours and some of ours, and tell the story in a different way. Anyone who's out there who's writes songs and plays traditional music might relate to this. When you start playing the songs from the deep tradition, I think they're like hard taskmasters. If you're going to sing one of yours, you better make sure it holds up, And it was very reassuring that we could find another way to write a song.
Well, this was a challenge, We don't usually write songs on demand, so it was like, let's see if we can.
That was really actually...
But they've given us so much language, as you'll see, because we've used a lot of it.
This song went on to our an album, and it was the first album. We built our own studio by this point, or at least collected the gear and adapted houses and churches and whatever else we could find. And this album went on an album called A Voice That Was Still, and it was the first album we recorded, mixed, and mastered all in-house, all ourselves, just Chloe and I and Jim McQuinney on Baron. And great memories of recording and that album. Wood and water, that's all you need.
All right. Step up and see my my traction engine. She's come all the way from Lincoln. She's worth £500 I have to pay. There's nowhere I wouldn't take her. Just give us wood and give us water. She come from Lyndhurst down to Trunkie in a day. She needs a steady heat, not red hot, stringy bark or brittle jack, not box. She keeps my boys out chopping in the rain. Keep the oil up to her moving parts and she'll finish any job she starts. 7 horsepower, good as any train. Wood and water, firebox at your feet. Wood and water, building up steam. Just take those pins out of the axle. She'll run a gold stamp or a timber mill. Give me any tree and we'll pull that timber down. If it's the lighter scrub you're clearing, well, it's as simple, boys, as shearing. Run a chain into an anchor, circle round, knock 'em down, wood and water. Firebox at your feet. Wood and water, building up steam. Building up steam, but cutting chaff's the thing that really makes the business run. 20 ton of chaff a day, 15 bags to the ton. 5 months of the year with the stars bright overhead. A top tied to the engine and the chaff bags for a bed. Well, Lyndhurst Council are a battle as their precious bridges rattle under 16 ton of powerful machine. As we chew up the roads in top gear, oh, I can almost hear him swear, just like the governor. They're letting off steam, wood and water. Firebox at your feet. Wood and water, building up steam. Building up steam. Looking 20 yards ahead. But if those chains were tighter, then you'd lose a thumb instead. I don't use the steam brakes much, reverse works down the slope. Yeah, she's a long, long way from England, but the old girl seems to cope. Wood and water, firebox at your feet. Wood and water, building up steam, building up steam.
Yeah, that was one song on the album. We had a couple of our own songs and a few of our own settings. The album again was called A Voice That Was Still, and it's one of those albums I thought we had stuffed. I really thought we hadn't quite got it right. I wanted to make a double album. It turned out a single. Our good friend Ian Large helped us record it. Oh, a quick story about recording that album. By this stage, recording this album, we'd had our first child. Precious Megan was born in 2007. And she was just wee. She was little. She was maybe 18 months, 2 years old. And by this stage, Chloe's mum and dad, Anne and Brian Newton, had kindly, through some... there's lots of talking about this, but they wanted a tree change, and they bought our spare block next to our house, built their own house, designed and built their own house. Beautiful house it is too, just 5 doors down from where we are now. Yeah. and so it was a great house for recording in. Recording when you've got a little baby or a toddler in the house is very difficult, especially the tiny little Ripple-owned cottage we were living in. So what we did is we went over and set up all the baffles and the recording and the mics and the gear, and Ian Large kindly helped us, patience, goodness gracious, putting up with us recording an album. Imagine that. Thank you, Ian. So that's great. We'll just leave Megan, Digger, as we call her, asleep next door. Yeah, no problem. We'll just use the baby monitor. Baby monitor's making noise. That's all right. We'll put a nice salad bowl over the baby monitor. So it
Clear salad bowl, so we can see the lights.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. No sound, only lights. And
Ian, who's watching Levels, is also watching the baby light. So
literally about 10 steps from one door to door, not even.
Not far away.
Not even, but that's how we recorded it. Imagine how surprised we were when it got the gong at the National Folk Festival for the Australian National Film and Sound Archives Folk Album of the Year. What a thrill, a surprise and a thrill. A song from those days.
Now, a completely different song. This is one that we haven't actually played before live because it wasn't really complete until we picked it up at the sort of a week and a half ago.
It was barely even a song, was it?
Yeah, so we went on a trip to South Africa in 2002 to my cousin's wedding. And it was a great revelation all around because it was my first time back since I'd left when I was 11. And I was going back with Jason, so I was bringing an Australian viewpoint with me. And it was very, very interesting to go back and see the same places again and see all the cousins and the relatives. I've got lots of relatives on farms in South Africa and a few in the cities as well.
We thought we were going for a family trip, but I don't think I've played as much music daily as we did in South Africa, because everywhere we went, that was the thing that we were asked to do, and we would never, I'm pretty reluctant sometimes in a social situation, but they were hosts and they were pretty, we want to. I like to make sure it's everyone's idea, not just the drunkest one,
Yeah. So the South Africans we were talking to and dealing with were people who enjoyed a story, which meant that our style of music went down really well. And I think that the tradition coming more from an English background in South Africa has pretty well disappeared over there. There was still some Afrikaans dancing and music going on, but not so much the English. So they were kind of gobsmacked to hear what we were doing, being used to just kind of commercial radio and Radio 5 and Elton John and this sort of stuff.
My favourite performance, I think, one of certainly my top 10 all-time performance memories was playing at Twisbro Sports Club. It was just a little gig, but Chloe's dear uncle Peter put the gig on for us. Peter was, he worked kind of like a de facto agent and self-appointed critic, all at the same time.
He'd just been made president, I think it was president of the social club, and he was really keen to kick things off, so he dragged us down there to play. And of course it rained, which meant that not only did we have an amazing night, but everybody was in a celebratory mood.
I mean, that was the point, is it had been dry.
The rain was a big deal.
And they were farmers, and you know what it's like. Every now and again as a musician, this happens. There's been a dry spell, you're playing when the rain comes. It's a numbers thing, but of course, everyone kind of gives you, a lot of people give you a little bit of credit for that.
So we had a very joyful time in South Africa. But when we went down to Cape Town to stay, we met Leonora, and Leonora was a maid in my aunt's house, and she came to say hello on a Monday morning, and she had hardly any voice. She had just a whisper of a voice.
She asked us to sing.
And she asked us to sing, so we sang her a couple of our own songs. I think we sang her Salvation Jane and... I don't know.
She asked for Waltzing Matilda. She asked for it. She knew it.
This kept happening to us in Africa. They'd go, sing! And
sing!
We'd be going,
stories!
I don't know what to sing. And they could sing. Gosh, they could sing you for an hour. Anyway, So anyway, but Leonora sang just in her whisper voice. And then she explained to us why her voice was only a whisper. So we'll tell you the story with this song. It's a very new song, so let's see how this goes.
Never explain, never apologise.
Yes, so I'm sorry.
Okay, Leonora speaks.
It's Monday morning in the Newlands' leafy stillness. I stand quietly to hear as Leonora speaks. She stands surrounded by the shining tiles, still gleaming from her labor, in this house where she works half the week. She has a second job at another house nearby, where the children grow up bright-eyed, plump and sleek. But it's Sunday that she talks about, as we lean in to listen, struggling to hear as Leonora speaks. Leonora sings on Sundays in a township down below. Her voice, mighty in its faith, rises up above the throng. With a choir she will often sing 3 funerals in a day. Each deserves her full attention. She cannot pace herself, she will not judge one soul less worthy. On Monday morning, Leonora's voice is just a whisper. She tells us this is Armageddon. The youth in the townships leap into adult life, despite the warnings of their elders. The virus claims one generation, then the next. Leonora says, where will the next generation come from? We are too old. Our children are buried. Our grandchildren are never to be. We're being wiped from the earth, methodically, completely. And all we can do is sing to heaven, sing and pray till we have no voices left to call on God. Leonora sings, Lord have mercy. Leonora sings, suffer little children. Leonora sings, così sekelele Africa. God save Africa. God bless Africa. Young children with this disease live as pariahs. They stay at home and sit while others work. They do not help prepare food. They do not run and play. They may not touch the things around them for fear of bringing death to those that love them. Leonora sings, Lord have mercy. Leonora sings, suffer little children. On the Monday morning, neath the false shelter of Table Mountain, Leonora whispers, così sekelele Africa. God save Africa. God bless Africa.
I learned a lot on that trip. Every hour of every day was a learning experience. That was actually my first trip out of the country, and my first thought when you arrive in Joburg was, wow, the air. This is really different. And the other thing was realising very quickly, you can know the numbers, but realising that South Africa is African in a big way. Musicians have a kind of a funny life in a way out there. Some of you might relate to this. We kind of float out through all kind of strata in society. No matter where we've been in the world, you don't notice it in Australia as much, although I did kind of grow up with a resentment of the kind of class structures that were around, and they certainly were there. But I remember that first trip to England when Dengue said, it'll shock you. And it really did. But musicians are lucky. We sort of float here and there and everywhere, and it meant that sometimes in Africa we were able to get to talk to people and to hear stories and to work with people and to have the mickey taken out of us
Yes.
by people that I guess maybe people who were there. I don't know. Was it unusual?
There are all these invisible barriers in South Africa. There are places that the white people go and places that the black people go. And it's kind of, I hope, it's been many years, I really hope that's changed quite a lot, substantially by now. But it was interesting to go back to places with my, 11-year-old's mentality and to go there with Jason, and he would just walk through those barriers. They just weren't there. They weren't there at all.
You learn so much about what it is to be Australian when you travel overseas. For the next few years, we got a lot of it, touring with the music, China twice, and Europe and Scandinavia, and all over the place. But that first trip to South Africa, wow, I worked out a lot of things I didn't really know. It was a lovely. I mean, I remember that at the wedding, going up and hanging out with the Africans, and I was trying to remember. I offered the bloke a cigarette, and I said, what do you order?
Would you like a cigarette? He said, oh, thank you. And you said, yeah, least I can do. And he said,
yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And they both laughed heartily.
Carol, I'm sorry that the internet's given you grief. I hope, I don't know. At this end, it feels like it's okay. And Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas. Thank you. And, thank you. And, take care over the break, and we'll see you soon. So stories came. Stories.
Yeah, we stayed with my aunt and uncle who live on a farm near Aliwal North, and Aliwal North is on the Orange River, which is the border between the Cape and the Orange Free State. Anyway, their farm is up on the side of a cliff. There's a mountain there, kloof, and it's an ancient big white house sitting there on the side of the hill. And they've had their kids, and their kids are grown up, and they said, you know what, I've got this idea. Why don't we bring in a few of the orphans from the orphanage in town and just give them a holiday? Let them be somewhere else for a while, and they can come and hang out on the farm and do all the farm things. Give them a break. And it was a lovely idea and a generous idea, but it didn't turn out quite as they'd planned in any way. Nothing was quite the same again.
And here, I think in this song, it's fair to say you can start to see that we're now folk singers and dyed-in-the-wool folk family members, because it's very much in Chloe has used that folky style chorus sort of format. So if you pick it up at home, join in. And whoops, sorry, I get that one. Let's hope we get to sing together sometime soon. I've really missed it.
Yeah.
Not as much as I would have without these nights, but I have. I'm sorry, Chloe.
Might have to try one more time, I think, just to get it all happening. Just to give you an idea, this farm was called Oorlogsfontein, which means war fountain, font of war. And it was owned by an Afrikaans family, the De Wets. My uncle married to the De Wet property, ended up living there. So all these different aspects of the history kind of ingrained in the place.
Another song off the Voice That Was Still album, if you're looking at album that was very good for us.
Stands where the road winds to the river and away, and it looks to the town at the edge of its lands, where the sun shines on the mountain every day. Let's do what we can, said the old farmer's wife, where the road winds to the river and away, to give 3 orphan children a break from hard life, while the sun shines on the mountain every day. Well, the orphan stands on a bare patch of ground where the road winds to the river and away. 6 kids on the veranda that runs halfway around while the sun shines on the mountain every day. 3 children look lively at each passing sound where the road winds to the river and away. And 3 heads are hanging, looking down at the ground while the sun shines on the mountain every day. Dusty back seat where the road winds to the river and away. 3 kids look lonely, they're swinging their feet while the sun shines on the mountain every day. And the farmer's wife smiles, and where are you going to play where the road winds to the river and away? Oh, nobody wants us, so we have to stay while the sun shines on the mountain every day. The farmer, he's thinking quite fast and quite hard where the road winds to the river and away. 6 kids for the holidays all over the yard while the sun shines on the mountain every day. So much space where the road winds to the river and away. I'll be good and work hard, and I'll help round the place while the sun shines on the mountain every day. Now the big house seems quiet in a soft autumn rain where the road winds to the river and away. With her heart in 6 pieces, she's sighing never again while the sun shines on the mountain every day. Shame, as you can tell, they had a wonderful time. They had an amazing holiday, but of course, all 6 kids wanted to stay, and my aunt and uncle didn't feel like they could just pick a kid, or they even said if it had just been the 3 we thought, if we hadn't picked the other 3 up when we got there, maybe we could have done something, but they couldn't keep 6 kids, so they all had to go back again.
Back a little bit further in time now to a song off the 2nd record. We had a little demo tape that was, there it is. We did actually find one. Yeah, there we are. So a little demo tape that we made just before making this album, and Charm was on there. This little tape to give you an idea of when our first National Folk Festival was. It was also the first folk festival for the Waves. Yeah. And we met and hung out there, and at that stage we were basically doing kind of the same thing,
we're
writing
up in
songs and singing
tiny
them.
little room, the attic.
Yeah. And the marquee though. We had a big stage one too. Right. But I didn't want to see the Waves were only doing the small venues, but they were doing the little ones with us, and they actually took a copy of that tape away, and they still sort of remember it fondly, which is nice. I haven't heard it myself for a long time, but it's always good when you can swap CDs. Normally if someone comes up and says, can I swap a CD with you, you want to swap with them. It's sort of the way it generally works, and the way you could see the future ahead of them, and it was an exciting one. And at the same time I knew we were on a kind of different road by then. We were playing a lot more traditional work, and happily so, but it's always good to hand music over that people like to people who drive the Nullarbor.
captive audience.
A captive audience, exactly. So they still remember that, which is sort of nice. This song, it was showing. Sorry, you go.
This song. I'm not sure quite what inspired this song, but I confess I do like reading fantasy and that sort of stuff. So here is just a bit of a spell, a bit of a wish. It's called Charm, but we're just starting to be influenced by the idea of tunes and traditions. We've found a tune in O'Neill's Irish tunes book. And we adapted this Bunch of Roses tune. I'm not sure it was a waltz.
It was a jig, 6/8 tune.
There you go, it was a jig. So we slowed it down, broke it up.
Slowed it down and straightened it up. It's a spell, isn't it?
So our song and then into a Bunch of Roses at the end.
on Me. I like that one a lot. And that tune is a beauty. I wonder if we just picked it because it was in the same key as a song. It's quite likely.
Maybe.
One of the things about working with traditional material is you probably realise this, but you're often working with just an unaccompanied voice, maybe even an unaccompanied voice without a sense of time, or with a sense of time that's not suited to beats, or pulling a tune off dots even, but the chords are, that's where the fun
Debatable.
can be. Debatable? It's funny, I can hear how all of the people I've played with, I reckon I could spot a Roger Hargraves set of chords. I could certainly think I could spot a David DeSanti set of chords. Alan Musgrove has a way about it that I could see a mile away. And it's kind of like the little fingerprint you kind of carry around. A lot of our work when we were first introduced to the tradition was getting rid of the colours out of the chords. But I'll talk about that again in a little bit. From an unreal song... Thanks, Peter. Thank you. From an unreal song to a hyper-real song. It's occurred to me that one of the things that's... Well, I thought maybe you'll agree, but the internet and connectivity, the web and such that came in the mid-90s for us, 95, we were pretty early on the thing when I was, 26?
We got email and had no one to email.
That's true. Spent the day setting up the computer to email and then realised we didn't have anyone to email. But it changed learning music. I mean, if you've seen the last two shows, you'll know that I, especially, less so Chloe, but a bit as well, just taught myself with records and an instrument, not even knowing how to tune the thing. So you just had to kind of make it up. And it makes things take longer, but it is qualitatively different as well. It's a different experience, and you just got to get the stuff where you can. That's the truth of it. You can work out a lot, and then you pick up a bit here and you pick up a bit there. Now, I, as a kid, my friend Ian Large did show me that a C7 chord could be moved, and that rocked my world. Literally, that's rock and roll, because all of a sudden you can...
Lots of chords.
Yeah, well, 3 chords. That's the important thing. And I remember having the longest shower in the world in Tottenham and the central west New South Wales where we were living, because I realised that it was all of those songs. It was rock. It was Rita May by Bob Dylan that I first heard, but then you just start ticking them off. Rock Around the Clock, Johnny B. Good, go on and on and on and on. And those chords I fell in love with, and Rita May in that one too, which is kind of nice. And I started playing some songs in E, and that was okay. Except E and A are right, but I couldn't work out for the life of me how to play a B7 chord. Now, these days, what would you do? You'd get 78,000 guitar players showing you on the internet in 2 seconds in all its variations, and that's great. You'd be there quicker than I got.
You mustn't have had the complete Beatles yet.
No, I didn't have any of that stuff.
Later.
No,
yeah.
Just a little exercise book with whatever scribbles I could put together. Still got it somewhere, I think. Anyway, I was headed off to Sydney anyway, and I realised that a bloke I sort of half knew in Oberon would know a B7 chord because he was a good guitar player. And so I got myself from Tottenham out to Oberon. It wasn't easy, and tracked down this bloke, and we sat down. I was about 15, I think. So, as you do, sat down in the tourist hotel. He was a footballer, this bloke, and I remember... The tourist hotel was where the footy players in those days, 85, they drank at the tourist, so they'd go and fight at the Royal. You get banned from the Royal, but you still got your pub you can drink in. So that's where we were, in the tourist hotel. And yeah, he gave me a B7 chord, and I thought, oh, you dickhead, Jason, because look, my C7 is really a B7. If you're a guitar player, you'll know what a simple trick I missed. So it took a long way. It was a long way around to get a B7 chord, but I think there's something symbolic in the fact that I also he told me a story, and so the B7 chord was the least of my prizes from my efforts that day. The story made me laugh, and I turned it into a song straight away. I called it the Oberon Lament, or The King of the Fairies is Dead.
Watch out for those blokes from the world.
So I don't think this fella's ever heard his song. So if you're out there, you'll know the story. You'll know it's about you. Well, you know, much as these things ever are.
All right.
It also made our first album there, Wailing. Well, one time I got a rock in my shoe. I pulled out of Oberon in a dirty old HQ. Well, I left my wife, left the factory, traded in our rocking horse and sold the old TV. Oh, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Well, I'll try and make it up to you somehow. I'll sing your pick and shovel and I'll work your bloody plow, but there's nothing I can do about it now. I made my way to Sydney town, drank the place dry and then I hit the ground. But when I woke up, there was nothing I could do. I pulled into Oberon in just the old HQ. It's been a hard day. Now I'm going home to my loving wife and the baby we have grown. But there's a note there I never read it through. Oh, she just pulled out of Oberon in a dirty old HQ. But there's nothing I can do about it now. Well, I'll try and make it up to you somehow. I'll swing your pick and shovel and I'll work your bloody plow, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Oh, I didn't need her anyhow. Yeah, I was 15. I still remember writing the song back at school. I was by that stage at a boarding school at Red Bend College in a lovely little horseshoe of the Kalare Lachlan River. And I don't know. I don't think I would have played that one for my mates because hillbilly wasn't the coolest thing around, but I liked it. One of the things we were surrounded by, or I was surrounded by in those days, was the tunes that would come out at the bush dances that we'd be at, or at school. We got to hear quite a bit of this stuff, and I was very aware that it was Henry Lawson country. If you know us by now, you'll know that apart from Chloe and I writing together, our most frequent co-songwriter, our co-conspirator is Henry Lawson. We take Henry's words and put it to music. And so all these tunes that went into this song, living in Henry Lawson country, he was ours. His language was, despite the 100-year difference in our ages, or a bit less than that, he was ours. It made sense to me. He caught our language and he caught the humour and he caught what it felt like to be me when no other writer did. That was really important to me. If there was one book around, it was probably Henry. And look, we're going to sing a song called The Good Old Concertina, featuring Chloe on The Good Old Concertina. Yep. Now, we did write this arrangement, but I might let Chloe tell you a little bit about how the tune came about.
It's far more of... over the years, we've played a lot of the dance tunes from this area. And it's a great pleasure to take those tunes and use them, especially with something like Henry's words. So you've got music from the area. Who knows? Maybe he heard something like this, while he was getting around. He certainly knew about concertinas, as you'll soon see, and knew they had their uses. So we've taken a song, tune, Happy as a Big Sunflower, that we learnt via Mike Martin from Joe Yates, who was living out at Safala. And we've sort of stretched it and tweaked it a bit and turned it into a tune for this song, The Good Old Concertina. when there's a Harry Schaefer's tune on the end too. Quadrille? Harry Schaefer's quadrille?
Yeah. So a lot of ways to skin a song.
To skin a tune, yes. 'Twas merry when the heart was full of jolly girls and fellows. We danced and sang until we burst the concertina's bellows. From distant Darling to the sea, from the Downs to Riverina, has e'er a gum in all the West not heard the concertina? Round the campfire blaze, the long white branches o'er us, we played the tunes of bygone days to some good old bush chorus. Old Erin's harp may sweeter be, the Scottish pipes blow keener, but sing an old bush song for me to the good old concertina. And the ringer's caving in, his bandaged wrist is aching with the pain, and the second man I fear he's gonna make it hot for him, unless we get another fall of rain. It was cozy by the hot fire bright when the pint pot passed between us. We drowned the voice of the stormy night with the good old concertinas. Though trouble drifts along the years and the pangs of care grow keener, my heart is gladdened when it hears that good old concertina.
I don't know if you saw that. That's the oldest bush band trick that I know. Is
communication on stage. Oh, everyone's hands are busy.
The foot's up, last one. I'm sure lots of you know that one. When we set Henry Lawson's work, we didn't always rely on such traditional material. You'll have worked out by now that we're great fans of a lot of different kinds of music, and it all, we've referred to this before, Tom Waits talks about his fish tank of music that he goes fishing around in for stuff to build a song. We tend to think of our fish tank as very muddy water. We don't know what we're reaching for. But in the end, there's usually some blues flying around in there.
Yeah, grab what moves.
And in this case, we've written a tune for Henry's wonderful, wonderful poem, one of his very strongest, Outback. I was going to recite this, or, learn it and recite it, but over the years I've heard Campbell the Swaggy do it too many times, and he's too good. He's just too good at this one. So we thought we'd turn it into a song.
This is one of the first times we'd written a song like this where the tune, there was never actually a set tune, but rather it kind of developed over time, over a repeating set of chords, and it's changed and stretched and become its own thing. So the tunes in the verses aren't quite the same, although the shape is there. So it's a sort of a semi-improvised form. which we really enjoy, actually. And Leonora's headed that way when we get it right.
Yeah, Henry's wonderful words, and I think what we were trying for with this music was to capture that Western New South Wales flat country, the big sky country that always feels a bit like home to me. But it is hard country, tough country, especially if you're not used to it. And
Okay. The old year went and the new returned with withering weeks of drought. The cheque was spent that the shearer earned, and the sheds were all cut out. The publican's words were short and few, and the publican's looks were black. And time had come, as the shearer knew, to carry his swag out back. For time means tucker, and it's tramp you must, where the scrubs and plains are wide, with seldom a track that a man can trust, or a mountain peak to guide. And all day long, in the dust and heat, those men of the outside track are with stinted stomachs and blistered feet. They carry their swags out back. Were long and hot, with never a soul to know or care if he died on the track or not. The poor of the city have friends in woe, no matter how much they lack, but only God and the swagmen know how a poor man fares out back. He begged his way on the parched Baru, and the Warrego tracks once more. And he lived like a dog, as the swagmen do, till the Western Station shore. But men were many, and sheds were full, the work in the town was slack. And the traveller never got hands in wool, though he tramped for a year out back. Its load, and the air seemed dead, and the water hung from his bag that hung from his aching arm like lead. Or in times of flood, when plains were seas and the scrubs were cold and black, he ploughed in mud to his trembling knees, and he paid for his sins out back. Oh, and dirty and careless and old he wore, as his lamp of hope grew dim. He tramped till the swag he bore seemed part of himself to him. As a bullock drags in the sandy ruts, he followed the dreary track, with never a thought but to reach the hearts when the sun went down out back. Like a furnace breath, he left the track for a tank. He knew it was a shorter cut to death. Oh, for the better the tank, it was hard and dry and crossed with many a crack. And oh, it's a terrible thing to die at first in the scrub out back. the tanks are full, the grass is high, and the mulga off the track, where the bleaching bones of a white man lie, by his mouldering swag out back. For time means tucker, tramp they must, where the scrubs and plains go wide, where seldom a track that a man can trust, or a mountain peak to guide. And all day long, in the dust and heat, those men on the outside track with scented stomachs and blistered feet, they carry their swags out back. And all day long, all day long, those men on the outside track.
So a whole nother way of writing a song. Back to the very early days now. This song is a song we called Joyride. It did land on the first album in '95, but we wrote it when, '92. Yeah, when we first were together. In fact, I think it's evident in the song that's the case. But it's a bit of an idea or an indication as to why we were starting to think we really wanted to play a lot more as a duo and less in bands, because we were writing these songs that just didn't fit unless that was the case. So just to make it clear, you weren't playing anything in the duo at that point.
No,
so
it's just guitar and voice.
Chloe singing and me singing. In a band circumstance, you'd pick up the bass.
Yeah, I picked up a bass occasionally.
Oh yeah, it was actually yes. In pub gigs, rock and roll gigs, longer gigs as a duo. I don't know. We were mad, you know. Like I mentioned at the start of the show, we had a particularly good little welcoming independent scene for the Spawn, the band that brought us together. There's the picture of the crew. So whilst the music was alternate, I think these were the days when that alternate music had managed to get itself they had charts of the independent charts, and there were gigs everywhere.
Lots of these sorts of gigs.
Yeah.
Posters on poles.
So if you're familiar with the inner west, you'll know the kind of gigs I mean. Max's and Peasham and the Annandale and the Hopetown and the Lansdowne and so many. The Evening Star, or the Evil Star as we used to call it. So once we were a duo, we were getting some quite good reviews, and we were getting a little bit of play on Triple J. We had a film clip that got just a smidgen of play on Rage, but the gigs were we were never quite the right or wrong thing. What a common pattern was, we would go and play something like a band comp. We'd throw ourselves into a band comp up against the metal bands and whatever else was going on. And quite often that landed us other gigs. I mean, that's how it tends to work. So we'd end up residencies at places like the Jolly Frog in Windsor and the New York Hotel in Piermont. Anyway, playing songs like this.
Yes, I love songs.
I love songs.
Oh, poor suffering things that we were. Every day we had to go to work in opposite ends of Sydney City, and we missed each other dreadfully.
We did fall pretty heavily. We first 4 years of our life, we didn't spend a whole day apart. And even then, it was only because to facilitate the move to Bathurst that we spent just the odd day. And there's been many days since. Not
lately.
No. So, I don't know. You wrote the words for this one, I think.
Yeah. Jason's beautiful chords, needless to say. Tends to be how we write a lot of music. We'll just sit down with words one or other of us have, and I'll bang away at melody shapes, and Jason bring in all the colours and the rhythms. time that I play with time is turning sour. I wanna be in a place in me where I store your memory. But from where I stand, within reach of your hand, oh, time is ours. I wanna be in a place in me where I store your memory. But from where I stand, within reach of your hand, oh, time is ours.
And speaking of not knowing what's going to come out, it's pretty obvious by now that I think our taste in music is very broad, and but even then, sometimes we end up surprising ourselves. And
Yeah, this one was a bit of a surprise.
it was, yeah, it was referred to by a few people who liked it as you should complete the musical and call it Love on a Nuclear Waste Dump. I don't think we'd ever complete the musical, but Megan, our big kid, thinks we should. She thinks she would enjoy that one. So it's a song called Sing Me a Tune.
Yeah.
And we wrote a tune for the end, and we called it Two Donkeys, just to make sure that you realise we weren't taking ourselves
Autobiographical.
too seriously at all. But yeah, I didn't realise this is one I would kind of be drawn back to, but I've really enjoyed it.
Gather the moonbeams and weave them in strands.
Just like
we'd have a stead just for collecting stars. You and me, baby, we climb.
We promised a couple of new releases amongst these shows, and we have our last, for this series anyway, a song we wrote right back in the very early days together, and it never got a run. I mentioned earlier, one of the things over the last 6 weeks I've refound is some rhythms and grooves and feels that we used to use that I had to relearn to play and adapt. But chords, well, here's some
interesting ones.
Some genuine imitation jazz for you now. No, we were obviously playing with colours. I mean, still don't really have any idea what we're doing. But the colours that we're using in these sort of songs, when we first playing traditional music, you just reefed all those colours out and we're much more selective. But this is a song called She Shines.
Yeah, a piece of fiction, this one. It's just capturing it's a liminal moment. A moment when everything's about to change. And, yep, no idea where this one came from. Just a story.
Just a story.
Just a story.
It's so nice to pull it out and relearn it and finish it off, really. It was never really finished. And good on you, Peter. And Jenny. And Jenny, thanks for the Merry Christmas. And, have a great spell yourselves. And that'd be nice next time we're all in one place. Gosh, that's understatement.
Can't be too far away.
Understatement of the century, isn't it? But it can't be too far away. Alright, She Shines.
Yep.
Oh, try that again.
She sighs into the microphone. The world outside is still. She shines, clinging like silk to every word. Pearls up her promises to hold. She raises a trembling hand to the ground. Touching every note, the piano murmurs low. She shines. She'll take the last train home. That cries ringing in her ears. They won't recognize her off the stage. Halfway to his lips, only the words have changed. She shines, throwing his memory back through time, every feature curve in line. He never really let her go.
We've got time for one more for you. And we're going to go right back in time. But before we do, whether you're watching live like Peter and Jenny and Heather, or if you're catching up on YouTube in the near future, thanks for your company. These Saturday streaming shows have been all-consuming at times, and we've learnt a lot. And I couldn't think of a better way to finish than coming home with our own songs. But if you're new to the idea, there on the YouTube channel there's over 50 hours of themed shows, mostly with our work around the tradition. A few original songs popping up here and there, and a whole wealth of things. If tonight's show seems to make some assumed knowledge out there and you haven't seen the first and second instalment, then feel free to go back and have a look. Always happy to.
On our website, we've got a whole index of the Saturday streaming concerts, which is helpful. It's got a little description and a link straight to the YouTube, so you can go through just reading the descriptions and going, oh yeah, that one today, and pick yourself a show.
I said on Fastbook today that it's just by turning up and having a chat and telling us what you like or don't like, you've kind of kept us spiritually in the game.
Yeah.
But many of you have contributed, small and big, and actually enormous sometimes. And as I've always said along the way, a little bit helps a lot, and a lot helps enormously. We are hanging in there financially as well. So,
yeah.
But it is thanks to the help. Yeah. We're going to finish with a song that we wrote again right back in the early. Might even be amongst the second or third complete songs we wrote, I think. I was sharing a house in Sirius Cove in Mossman. $65 a week, walk down to the harbour. Oh, this old landlubber from Western New South Wales was in heaven, I tell you. Anyway, it's a song we wrote. It never really got a decent name. We called it The Five.
Yeah, or Misplaced Avarice.
But it's a terrific way to finish, I think. I like this one. Nice to have Chloe back on the bass. But anyway, thanks for the company. Free shows, but we do really appreciate the donations. And I can even throw a link in right now.
Oh, good thinking. Yeah. Website, place for all things music.
Donations through the
and
button.
These albums are there. They download for whatever you'd like to pay. So that's another option.
Yeah, these are very early. Sometimes we wonder what on earth we were thinking, but sometimes we're quite surprised. That album was mastered by Meredith Brooks, the late Meredith Brooks, we have to say now. She's a legend, so I left that one alone. But these two were given just the other day. We gave them a much overdue lick of mastering, and I think, and for download albums like these ones, which are well and truly out of print, you can download the MP3s. You can pay what you like, so including nothing. Go grab them if you're interested to have a listen. Or some people are choosing to donate by that method. So, sorry.
All right, let's see what we can do with this. We were challenging ourselves to try and write something in 5, and this is what we came up with. This one would go alright in the musical too, I reckon.
Love on a Nuclear Waste Dump, you think? Yeah. Alright. Okay. Thanks for the company, folks. See you soon. Take care.
Reassuringly describing who I am.
weak, I've fallen steadily, and I never need to speak because you know. You know. That's your bloomin' lot, folks.
I like that one. I've really enjoyed them all, and I'm very pleased to have had a chance to sing them after all these years. It's been quite a journey, these 6 weeks, kind of stirring up all kinds of things. But yeah, we're going to enjoy a break now. We're going to get into some recording. We've got some new songs that we've debuted here that we're going to get in, stuck in and record. Got a head full of ideas amongst those ones. And we've got some other recording we're finishing off too. But we'll be back in the new year with some more SS shows. I'm sure we like it too much. Too much fun.
One way or the other.
Right. Take care, folks.
All the best.
See ya.
Merry Christmas.